All right, grand rising, powerful beings. Shout out to you watching this video or listening. I want to talk to y'all about dismantling fear and being courageous enough to act upon the things that, and doing it in spite of whatever it is that you fear doing, whatever it is. You might have a fear of success, a fear of failure, a fear of judgment, a fear that, you might get up there and not stay up there. Whatever fear you got, it is literally not a fact. Right? Just because it's a fear doesn't mean it's a fact. And during this episode, I'm going to be talking about how you can literally get rid of fear from your organs, from your kidneys. How you can literally, what are some things you could do to build more courage, to build more faith, so that way you can keep going the path even when it doesn't seem like it's going to work out, right? So that's pretty much what this episode of Ed Talks Daily is all about. It's all about dismantling that fear, all right? So let's get it. So what does it mean to dismantle fear? Dismantling fear looks like understanding that, first of all, fear is a common acronym you've heard from so many great teachers like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, is that fear is false evidence appearing real. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's real evidence that may be real. So fear is not just false evidence appearing real. Fear is a piece of evidence that may or not may be real. So you might be fearful that the variant is coming after you. That may or may not be real. So what you mean? So it means that there might be a crazy variant out there that's worse than the first one, or it might just be propaganda. So fear means that whatever you expect is happening may or may not be happening, but you choose to dread the fact that it is happening, even though it may or may not be. So if something is may or may not be, it means that it's not a fact, it's just a possibility. Which means that sounds like every single aspect of life is a possibility. It may or may not be, to be or not to be. So because of that, you got to understand that, hey, this is the uncertainty of life. So fear often sprouts from uncertainty, not knowing what is going to happen as a result of. Fear is, I can't see what's going to happen, so I assume the worst is going to happen. This is not always the truth. Just because you can't see what's going to happen, it does not mean the worst is going to happen. So when we step out of fear into faith is, listen, I don't know what is going to happen, but I'm hoping for the best. It's a different mindset, it's a different mentality, same forces. We can't change the forces, but we can be a force that moves forward in spite of them. We can't change the forces. We can't change the weather. You can't change the uncertainty of what's going to happen next. But what you can change is a level of certainty that you're going to happen the way you want to, regardless of what happens. It's like, I don't know how the economy is going to be, but what I know for sure is I'm going to keep bringing my gifts, because I know that no matter what the economy is, I'm going to find a way to eat, right? It's not what happened to you, it's how you respond to it, which means that fear does not mean that you are weak. Fear means that you are human. Fear means that you are alert that there are possible demises in your future. So fear is not a bad thing. But when you let your fear determine what your outcome is going to be and you reside in it, this is when it becomes an overindulgence of something that's supposed to alert you. Somebody's walking outside your house with a gun, a machine gun, and you ain't got no gun. Best you have a little bit of fear. So that way it could sprout you into action. But from fear, if you stay in fear and hide, the person with the gun gonna come get you. So guess what? At some point, when you get the fear, you get now energy. Some people, you let that energy bring them into a hidden immobilization. Some people let that energy bring them into a flight or fight. Okay? So now, what do you mean by that? You could either be immobilized by fear or you could be fueled by it. Right? You could either be stuck in fear or you can say, listen, you know what? This thing makes me scared. I'm going to do it anyways. So the person walking out, you know what? Let me take action. Guess what? I need to call somebody. Oh, the person walking out, you know what? I need to grab me a bat right here. You know, like just like Home Alone. The little kid, he understood that, listen, if I'm, instead of staying scared in my room, when this people come in here to rob, the little kid in Home Alone, he understood that, listen, I'm not going to be scared of what's happening. I'm going to set traps for my opposition. So the little boy then said, let me get marbles, you know, let me be creative. Let me find what I know and let me make sure that I protect myself. He didn't have like a gun, but he had different tools. So fear does not mean opposition does not come. Fear means that you become creative on how to deal with your opposition with what you have. So the little boy in Home Alone, why he was effective was because he understood that he had gifts. And he said, listen, oh, they're coming for me. I don't have a gun, but I got marbles. I don't have a gun, but I have a paint, right? So now he said, I'm going to use what I'm able to do. Instead of residing in fear, I'm going to strategize so I can survive. So you don't live in fear. You let it alert you. You move, you strategize so you can survive. You find different skills. But guess what? Fear, strategizing without faith is meaningless. Because faith gives you the courage to keep doing stuff that you never thought you can do. So yes, it's one thing to dismantle fear, but it's another powerful thing to step into faith. Because when you have faith, fear does not touch you. Like it fuels you, it boosts you. And you're like, oh, I got to do something. Oh snap, I might hit that thing. Let me do something. Let me switch it up. Let me change it. Let me turn around. So guess what fear does? When somebody is in faith and is a faithful person, certain of their future, and they feel a certain fear of failure in the future, guess what they do? Even though they feel the fear, they say, yeah, I'm scared. You know what? I'm scared of what I might have to handle if I run up this big business. Yeah, I'm scared if I leave this situation, what may happen if I boom, boom, boom. I'm scared if I try that, what may happen. Yeah, I'm scared, but you know what? I have such a big vision. Okay, I'm going to do it anyways. So fear, not only does fear does not have to immobilize you, fear does not mean just because you have it in you that you can't act. Fear means that you feel the fear and you do it anyways. But how can you dismantle the fear? First, you have to recognize fear for what it is. Fear is a master convincer that only the demise is going to happen. Fear is a convincer that only the worst will happen. Fear is, oh, you're going to die, you're not going to live. Fear says, only look at the bad side of the situation and look how you might get hurt, how you might lose this. So fear stems from loss. There's always a losing aspect when we think of fear. Because guess what? I might lose my life. I might lose respect. I might lose the opinion, how somebody thinks of me. I might lose my one-up on this person. I might lose some money. So guess what? Fear usually have to do with loss. I don't know if I should start this business because I might lose money. I might lose respect among my peers. They say, man, you worked so hard on the business and you failed. Oh, I might lose this. I might lose that. Oh, so always on the bottom of most fear is something that has to do with loss. We don't want to lose. And not only do we not want to lose, there's an attachment of loss which causes a certain grieving. But guess what? Fear also means we don't want to lose identity to what we've been accustomed to. Fear also means we don't want to lose identity by that. You know how you're a type of person that eat a certain way? And you're like, man, I ought to start changing how I eat. But then you think, man, you have a fear that, man, if I start changing how I eat, then I won't be able to be me. If I start changing how I eat, then I won't have these people who eat with me. Then I'll not be able to. You're creating all of these fears about how changing your lifestyle is going to be oh so bad, but you're not looking at all the positive sides of changing what you eat. Because now you're going to add life to your life. You're going to add vitality. You're going to add years to your years. When you switch from fear and say, you know what? I'm not sure if this is going to work out like I thought, like I planned, but guess what? I'm going to do it anyways. And if it does not work out, I'm strong enough to overcome it. And guess what? I can never lose nothing if I still have myself. Fear is understanding that no matter what it's not in your life after you make a decision, after you decide to keep moving forward, that you will, if you lose things, you could lose people, you could lose so-called respect. I don't know how you lose respect. I don't know. You got two pockets of respect that you're gonna lose. I don't know. You can lose relationship, whatever. But guess what? You will still have yourself. When you have faith, it means that you shall overcome, because you understand that, yo, I may lose whatever, respect. I may lose money. I may lose time. I may lose whatever. But guess what? In spite of it, I got myself. And because I'm still here, the story has not been written to be in the complete demise. Now, what are some cousins of fear? What are some brothers and sisters of fear? And how do we deal with the entire family? So we have the sister, which is worry. Worry is literally fear painting mental pictures in your mind. It's like your little sister who always talks about how everything is not going to work for you, right? Worry is your little sister saying, well, guess what? You're going to get hit by a bus. Worry is saying, guess what? You're going to lose all your money. Worry is fear painting mental pictures of your mind of defeat, of all the things that will happen if you act. And guess what? Now come closer. Guess what? It's not always true. It's most likely a lie. Come a little closer. It's not always true. It's most likely a lie. So worry is fear painting mental pictures of defeat, lies in your head. But guess what? Worry is not always a lie. Because worry gives you an option. It lets you know that something bad can happen if you don't do something about it. Let me tell you something. If you miss work for the next 7 days and you know that's your only way of making income right now and you haven't worked on any other sources of income, best you worry about how you're going to pay your bills, because you're not going to work. So worry is to tell you, go take your ass to work. Worry is not there to say, hey, you're going to be broke. When we let the result of what not doing becomes what we look at, we hit the result right in the head. But when we let the possible result of not doing and we say, let me do it, it changes the result. You say, hey, if I don't do this, this is going to happen. This is worry. Oh, but if I do this, I can change what happens. This is acting. There is no difference between that. It's just one saying, oh, I'm not going to give in to the picture. I'm going to give in to the action. You just made a choice to do or not to do, to be or not to be. To do or not to do is an option. To believe or not believe. Somebody said, you know what? Guess what? Guess what's going to happen to you? Things are going to, it's going to be horrible for you. You're going to lose this, you're going to lose that. And you're like, oh yeah? You worried about that? Nah, that's not going to happen to me, because I am cultivating, I am preparing, I am storing, I am building, I am saving, I am building. You like, yo, I'm not worried about that because I'm focused on, I want to try to hear that again. I'm not, listen, it's a different statement. I don't know why the people are not here today. I'm not worried about that. I'm focused on this. Worry is, when you're worried about that, it takes time away from focus on this. It is the focusing on this that changes the outcome of that. So when you stop worrying about that and you focus on this, you change the outcome of that. Because just by worrying that the worst thing can happen is actually making it that worst thing happen. When you say, guess what? You know what? Instead of worrying about if I'm going to be able to feed myself, let me figure out how to make some income. Or let me figure out how to, instead of worrying about if I'm going to end up at the hospital when I'm older, let me figure out how to get in a holistic lifestyle to start taking care of my body. Instead of worrying out if I'm going to gain 30 pounds post-Christmas, this is going to happen again, let me focus on mindful eating. Let me focus on detoxing around this season because I know it's starting to get cold. I need to detox. It's a different mindset. It's a different mentality. Instead of worrying about a demise in the future, focus on the prize of the moment. Okay? So, I told you what fear is not and what fear is, but dismantling the fear starts with acknowledging the fear. It starts with understanding the fear. It starts with labeling the fear. Identify the fear, but don't identify with the fear. I want to say this again. Identify the fear, but don't identify with the fear. Yes, I am scared of failure. What was your deep realization, Queen? Yes, I am scared of failure, but I am not a failure. Yes, I have a fear of that I may lose this respect, but guess what? I am not somebody who have lost respect. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, I fear that this may happen, but I am not that. So you are not what you fear. Don't say I'm just scared. I'm a fearful person. I'm scared all the time, right? I'm scared shitless, right? Because fear affects your digestion. So now you're like, yo, you identify it. Oh, identify as it is. You might say something's wrong with me. No. Oh, I'm scared of moving forward. Oh, I just have a fear of moving forward. Why would I have a fear of moving forward? Well, maybe this is different. I've never done this before. When you can say, oh, I've never done this before. This is why I feel like moving forward. Then you're like, oh, okay, I'm not really that stupid. I'm just a human. I've never done it before. So guess what? Instead of worrying about what's going to happen, how can I focus on learning how to do it? When you switch how you speak in your mind, you change what happens in your life. Because now you're speaking life to your life, and you're not speaking death into you. You're actually creating, okay? So you have to make a decision that, listen, here's what I'm doing. You know what? These things may happen, but in spite of that, I'm going to happen the way I want to. So, like you said, when you're paralyzed, that's the problem. It is important to identify your feelings. A lot of times people get paralyzed because they didn't realize. People get paralyzed for what you don't realize because what you don't realize gets stuck in you. What you make real in your mind long enough will become real in your body. And if you keep that realness in that real thing in your body long enough, it will become a disease. It will become a traumatic disease. So what I mean is a lot of tumors are not started by exactly what you eat, but the mental food, the mental chatter in your mind, the conversations that you have that bring about fear, the things you let intrude, the news that you keep watching, and housing all those fears soon starts affecting your organs. So like I told you, one of the things I want to share with y'all is how fear affects your organs and how you literally house your fear in you. And in order to dismantle your fear, you have to actually stop housing it, which means you have accumulated fear as well, which means a fear of failure may not just be because you're about to start a new business and it might be because you started one before and you thought you failed. But a lot of times you didn't fail, it just didn't work. Or what you did didn't work and you could do it again in a different fashion that would work. So a lot of our current fears are on the basis of our previous fears. A lot of our current fears is the basis of our childhood fears. And the moment we could heal from those is the moment we can free ourselves. Sometimes you just have to get in the same page with somebody to dismantle a certain emotional state. Sometimes you have to get in the same page with yourself to dismantle an emotional state. You have to understand where it sprouts from. When you see where something sprouts from, you could sprout and grow out of it because you understand the source. So once you understand the source of your fear, you can grow out of the fear, because you can say, oh, the source of my fear is that, I'm afraid that if I have to empower 100 people, 100,000 people, maybe I'm not going to show up. But I want to ask you, a couple of things you want to ask yourself is, can I keep doing this? Somebody says, can I keep doing this consistently for the next 10, 20 years? I want to ask you, have you been doing this consistently for the last 3 months? Have you been doing this consistently for the last 6 months? Have you been doing this consistently for the last 12? Fact, were you just consistent the last day? So guess what? Why are you worried about the next 12 months consistency when the only thing you need to worry or focus on is how you're going to be consistent today? you don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. You just have to focus on making it happen today. The moment we worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, we take the time that we can spend working on it today. And we turn the worry now turns to a reality because you made it real in your body. So the fear is housed in your kidneys. Now, you're going to the season where the kidneys is one of the most important organs you need to focus on. This is the winter season. It's starting to get cold. Your kidneys filtrate the liquids in your body. So guess what? If that kidney is getting cold, think about that. All liquids getting frozen up. So guess what? The more scared you are in this cold season, if you start saying, oh, let me hide underneath the blanket of comfort, right? The more time you stand underneath the blanket of comfort and you don't do anything to heat yourself up, you're going to start freezing. This causes then more things. Now, fear that was fear here became indulgence. Indulgence now becomes stagnation, and stagnation now becomes depression. So a lot of times you might just be scared of a few stuff and you don't act on what you need to. So now you indulge because then now the liver is acting up. And you want sweet, you want candy, you want gum, you want a bunch of food. And then now that causes stagnation in the body, causes inflammation in the body, which leads to disease. Now, Nerva says sometimes you need to have a disease to find out the way to cure yourself. Failure is part of your development as a person. 100%. So, Keisha, basically, what you just said is true. A lot of people don't wake up until they get sick. But listen, what if you can wake up while you're getting sick? That's even better because you can undo the damage, right? But then a lot of people, it's not until something traumatic happens that they wake up, because now they get on the sickness, on seeking how to change it. But guess what? For the people who are actively listening, the best thing you could do is prevention, right? Dr. Love always says prevention is the only cure, right? And that's a powerful way of putting it, because if you prevent something from happening, you never have to even try to cure it because you already prevented it, right? So you have to do a constant practice of releasing fear. And there are various ways you could do that. You could do it with movement. You could do it with your mindset training. You could do it by education. Like by listening to something like this, it is like a cognitive therapy. As you listen to this, it is literally bringing light to certain parts of you. Like, oh, I see that fear. Oh, I see that. Oh, I understand that. So your mind now might say identify it easier. So these are a couple ways you can do it. A part of fear is also the thing you're afraid of. Once you put your hand in it, you'll realize it's not that hot or not that bad. And then now you're going to start to change your approach or fear of it. So guess what? Now, a child does not fear a hot stove till they probably touch it, till they experience what it means to get burnt. You're like, oh, stop, I got burnt. So now let's say a child touches a stove and they got burnt a little bit and they're like, oh, I better not touch that stove ever again. I better stay away from that stove because if I'm around that stove, I'm going to get burnt. So sometimes we put our feet into something. It's like touching the stove as a child. We put our feet in something, we get hurt a little bit. But then instead of coming back and understanding, oh, maybe I shouldn't touch it, maybe let me use it correctly, we just ignore the whole thing. We're like, oh, let me run away from the stove. I'm never going to be there ever again. Now, guess what? If you are fearful of a stove, guess what happens? You don't eat. So guess what? Sometimes in life, the stoves that burn us is not teaching us not to use it. It's teaching us not to touch it, because that's not how you use it. You use a stove by putting a pot on the stove. So some things that hurt you teach you how to navigate through it the next time. It does not mean for you to avoid it completely. So you might reach into certain situations that are scary, but when you do it anyways, you get a large amount of satisfaction. Even the roller coaster. You get on a roller coaster, yes, it's a little bit scary. The first time you went, you might have had a bad experience, but the next time you go on a roller coaster, you're like, man, it's actually fun as the fear. You're like, oh, I'm embracing both the fear, the excitement. Guess what? We often confuse excitement with fear. Because the same gut sensations you get when you're which fearful happens in the gut. And the same gut sensations, not about the same way, but the same movement is happening here. It's just in a different way. I say the butterfly in your belly have butterflies of excitement. They are moving, but it's more subtle. It doesn't get you too wrapped up. It's not shooting a bunch of cortisol, right? It's giving you more dopamine, endorphins, and a little bit of adrenaline. So you're feeling pumped up. This is what excitement does in the body from a chemical standpoint. What fear does in the body is it releases cortisol. It releases certain hormones to help you with the fight or flight. Also releases testosterone. So now you feel like I need to move, right? But fear can be very pulling. It feels like you need to move here, you move there. So fear can be like, so it's like bats. I call it bats of fear. Like all of a sudden, it just flies. It's like you're in the middle and somebody's walking next to you and you're like, oh, just like that. But excitement is more like you feel like you're floating, right? You're like, it's a good day, but it still feels like a little bit of, I'm excited, right? So gut sensations are fear and excitement. But sometimes we mistake excitement for fear. Oh, I'm about to go on stage. I'm about to go speak to the people. You've been preparing. You're about to do your thing. You've been preparing. But you're like, oh, I'm scared. No, there's a little bit of fear in there, but you got to notice that you're also excited. So guess what? That means that you can transform the bats of fear to butterflies of excitement if you change the way, when you change the way you look at things, what you look at will change. So let's say you're like, yo, I'm scared of what's gonna happen when I have to be on stage talking to 100,000 people, whatever. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle it, since we're still using a speech analogy and this is what I do as a profession. You're like, I'm scared when I start to do this, that it's gonna be so scary. But what if you say, I'm excited for what that brings. Look, I'm actually excited to start a big business because I know the impact. I'm very excited for the future. Like, you know what? I'm excited to figure out how to make this work. I'm excited to build this new business. I'm excited for this new relationship. I'm excited to try to give another shot at love. I'm excited to give another shot at another relationship. I'm excited to try having a kid again. You know what? Maybe I got burnt on the last one, but this one, you know what? I have faith that it's going to work out. You know what? Last year's results does not have to be this year's results. You know what? What happened then does not have to happen again. I can transform it. So when you switch your mindset on it, you accept what was, you move forward in spite of what was, and you create what is to be. By your very action and thinking that, hey, I'm not stuck to it, you are now freed from it. The moment you look down and you say, I'm not stuck to it, you are free from it because you are now no longer seeing the false created cage or bondage or stick or whatever was have you stuck. Sometimes we're like, I'm stuck in this situation, but you're not really stuck. You're stuck in the mentality or the perception of the situation. And the moment you let go, dismantle the mentality, the perception of the situation, you change it. You're like, yo, I'm stuck. I feel so stuck in my life. No, you've been stuck in certain behaviors. The moment you say, oh, I'm not stuck in life, I've just been stuck in habits. I've been stuck in behaviors. So guess what? I'm going to change my habits and behaviors. Oh, I'm not stuck. I've been stuck in a routine that's not serving me. So I'm going to change the routine that's not serving me. Oh, I'm not stuck. I've been stuck in. When you say I'm not stuck, I've been stuck in fear. I'm not stuck, I've been stuck in doubt. I'm not stuck, I've been stuck in shame. I'm not stuck, I've been stuck in. You're like, oh, let me get out of it. The moment you realize you're not stuck, you're stuck in, you're separating yourself from the situation and you give yourself enough space to step out of it so you can do something about it. Oh, you know what? I'm stuck in an anxious state right now. Guess what? Let me step out of this anxious state by stepping into conscious breathing. You step out of one state into another because you know you're not limited to it. You know it's a happening and that you consciously can choose it. Somebody said, I'm stuck in fear, I'm stuck in anxiety, I'm stuck in worry. Guess what? Let's focus on the action. Let's focus on changing what you eat. Let's focus on changing how you move, how you breathe, right? So you're not stuck in those fears. You can dismantle the fear. And you can step into courage and having the willingness to say, listen, I'm going to do it anyhow. Like I have to do it regardless of, okay? So it's not it's going to be easy process. It's I'm going to do it regardless that it's hard. All right? So once you make that decision, then guess what? A lot of things are going to get you scared, but guess what? You're going to grow to stand in front of it and say, listen, it seems like you're about to take over, but guess what? I am not scared because I have faith and I'm going to keep moving forward. So guess what? Don't let your fear dismantle your courage. Courage is of the heart. So you have to align your heart and believe that guess what? You can do it. So you got to speak it into your life. You got to breathe it into your life. You got to move it. You got to affirm it. So many different ways that you can make this happen. But guess what it's going to be? It really does have to do with you understanding that this is happened. It happened. But it does not have to happen again. Yeah, it happened. I accept it. This is what's happening. But I'm not stuck to this place. I create my destiny. I'm not stuck to this state. I create my destiny. I'm not going to remain in anxiety. I'm not going to remain in fear. I'm not going to remain in depression and worry. I'm actually going to step into my courage to act within those adversities and storms. You know what? I know it seems like I can't do it. I know it seems like I can't overcome it. But you know what I'm going to do? Regardless of that, I'm going to do it anyways. So you have to believe it. You have the unlimited power in you to dismantle the fear, let go of the pictures of defeat, and see that you are the creator of your life. And until that happens, the world will forever miss all your talents, all your gifts, and all the great things that you have to offer. Okay, so remember, let your light shine, don't hide it, don't dim it. It's the Holistic Motivator, and I want to invite everybody who's watching to go to edtalksdaily.com, subscribe to this podcast, and if it added value to you, be sure you leave a review, all right? Peace. And for those of you who watch it on YouTube, make sure you keep the subscribe button, right? Click the subscribe button, and then also like the video. That's going to improve the algorithm, which is going to get this to more people. Thank y'all for listening and watching. Peace.